Hi, and welcome to the Get Local podcast. I'm Joanne Fowler, your host for today, and I'm thrilled, as always, to bring on these local hidden gems from the upstate that we can share with you what they do, who they are, and why you need to invest in them. So today in our studio, we're real excited. We have Ken Younce, who is the owner of Be Real Sales Training right here in Greenville, South Carolina. And today, Ken is one of those hidden gems that we're going to talk to you a little bit about today. So welcome to the studio, Ken.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited that you're here today. I tell you, we talked a little bit before we got you in on the podcast, and I was so thrilled to hear about the sales training that you have. So before we get into all of that, let's tell our listening audience a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Well, Ken Younce, I'm originally from the low country of South Carolina, and I've been living up here for about 25 years. But different companies I've worked with, I've had the ability to and flexibility to travel around a good bit and get a good grip on different cultures, everything all around the country. So, but I got into sales early on in life. I actually sold meat out the back of a truck for a little bit early on when I had my family was very young, and I got laid off they said about 3 to 4 months, just go find something, you can come back. I said, okay. So I just really didn't have I wasn't passionate about sales, but I looked at an ad, went in there, and just jumped into meat sales. And within 6 weeks, I was leading the company, and they had me training people. And
Wow.
and so I was like, man, I'm pretty good at that. But I never considered myself a salesman. And I just, kind of kept going about and I ended up in sales all the time. But here in the upstate, I've settled down, love it here, not planning on going anywhere. I'm very fortunate in that with my company, I do travel some, but I do a lot of stuff virtually, and I do try to connect with local people and try to connect in person as much as possible too.
So when did you start your company?
Well, I started putting the material together probably end of 2020, early 2021, and it was just from being successful in multiple different sales industries. I would most companies have some kind of training that they do. Some of it's a little bit more formal. Some of it's like, hey, just sit down and watch these videos and, just go do what they tell you to do, right? And so I enjoyed the learning part of how everybody approached it, but I just always did it my own way. And I said, finally, I was like, man, when enough people ask you, man, what are you doing different? And I just say, man, I'm just being real with people. Like, and I had a saying that I would say, all the time, like, people don't want to be sold, so don't.
Right.
And it sounds so simple, but like, man, just educate people. And when I came up with the name, I was always saying be real, but then I made the acronym, and it's relate, educate, ask, and listen.
Okay.
And so those 4 principles are the key things. Like, first of all, try to relate with people. They want to be related to, if it was all about just gathering information, they would just go to your website and order everything, or you could hand them a flyer.
Right.
Hey, here's a flyer with all the information. And then they would just go
buy
and just buy it. But there has to be a personal connection. And that's what sales has lost. And I've noticed that at all the different stops that I've had, that's the big gap, because people tell you, hey, here's our product. Here's what it does. Here's the service. This is how we do it. Here's the cost. And then they think they armed you as a salesperson to go be successful. But you don't have that connectivity.
Gotcha.
And the people that do understand the connection part, and they're great sales, that they're great at making estimates and doing all the different things, guess what? They go start their own business. So it's hard to build a company and really train a sales team that you're trying to find unicorns, man. Like, it's not. So how do you actually train people to have comfortable conversations that lead to valuable relationships?
I agree.
And that's what I coach.
And that's what you coach. Now, you use the word coach. So a question I have for you is, obviously you do go into companies and you do corporate training, but what about individuals? So maybe someone who's wanting to go into sales and they're a little bit afraid, or maybe they're in a sales position and they love it, but they're not being successful. Do you coach those individuals as well?
I love to.
Okay.
What I love about, having my own, finally, it's my name on the wall. It's my banner. I can do what I want to do. I'm not working for somebody else that says, okay, well, here's how we're going to do things. What I love about what I do is I can tailor it towards any individual, any industry. I have my core principles that I go by, that I coach through, but they apply to sales. Like, sales is sales is sales. The people that can sell vacuums can sell cars. The people that can sell cars can sell real estate. Like, it's a lot of those core skills are just universal.
Right.
but a lot of companies don't really invest in real sales training, right? So it's up to the individuals. And so I love finding individuals that are passionate about it, their profession and their livelihood, and the impact they can make on their family, their community, their company, that go out on their own and seek help. And so I'm more than happy to do that.
Now, I hear this question a lot, so I'm interested to hear your answer. But a lot of people say that you're either born a salesman or you're not. So is becoming a salesman or saleswoman, is that something that you can be taught, or is it something that is kind of innate in you?
When I get in front of a group of people, I tell everybody in the room, everyone on the planet is a salesperson. If you've got a wife or a husband, you sold them on something.
Yeah.
You are the product of a sale, because either your mama convinced your daddy or your daddy convinced your mama, but somebody convinced somebody of something.
Right.
And here you sit, right?
Yes.
We're selling all the time, right? We're persuading. As a baby, you're persuading people to give you the cookie, and you're crying, you're whining, you're persistent, and they finally say, okay, here's a cookie. Like, it's just, we're always doing it. But what happens, I think that through pushy salesmen, it's created a bad taste in a lot of people's mouth, and they don't want to be that. They don't want to be associated with that. So it's like, sales is like the number one industry on the planet. I mean, it's like everything is sales.
Right.
Marketing is sales. So you take all these different people that are doing all these different versions of sales, and understand that you end up there. You don't, as a child, they don't say, okay, well, what do you want to be when you grow up? Well, I want to be a salesman. Like, that doesn't really happen, right? But we inevitably end up in that profession. But so a lot of people don't take pride in it. So I think that the part that you think that you're either born a salesman or not is, people don't normally come out saying, okay, I just want to be a salesman. Like, they end up in it.
Yeah, they end
But
up
I
in
think that what makes it a coachable profession and a coachable skill is that there are people like me that my first passion is coaching, right? So I coached 78 sports teams in 6 different sports. So whatever job and whatever profession I was ever in, I always made time to coach. So from high school, AAU, travel ball, college camps, all the way down to church basketball, if there's somebody that had a whistle and a group of kids, or somebody, hey, you got a bag of balls, I'll coach them, man. Like, I love coaching. And so when you're passionate about that, like, it's like breaking down film. Like, it's like, if you're watching, as a coach, you look at film and say, okay, well, here's where we could have done this better. We could have done that better. And so I look at sales that way. I look through that lens. So I look forward to that. And because I've seen so many times people that don't think they're salesmen, those are the ones that do the best, because they don't have that pushy, like, they're more laid back. They're more, hey man, let me just give you the information. And then there's tactics within that we coach you on how you, strategically ask questions and build your questions, to kind of like a formula to kind of get them to come. It's never a good idea unless it's their idea, right?
Right.
So it's really about how you form those questions. And so once we meet with you and do a discovery, kind of on your profession, what your sales are, how you sell, what's your current pitch, your process, and I'm one of one of the first things I coach on is conversations over pitches. I can't stand a pitch. You know what I mean? And so again, most recently, and my most active amount of coaching I'm doing currently is in the roofing industry. It was really the last thing that I really got into, that when I had that much success, I was like, man, it's too hot to keep getting on these roofs. Some of them are steep. Some I'm getting on old roofs that don't have a lot of grip on them sometimes. I was like, dude, okay, I need to do, my calling is to coach people on how to sell these things, and me not climb them, right?
That's right.
So so usually I'm coaching a group of guys in those settings, right?
Yeah.
So I always just tell them, so guys, you can walk into, a situation and there's 50 women in a club or a bar or something, and you can make up some line that you think is going to work and go tell it to all 50 women. I'm not saying you won't get a number, but I'm saying if you would sit there and have a conversation with a woman, you can pick which woman you want to go talk to, and then you just go and you. I'm not saying close the deal. That's that's terrible. But I could just go have a conversation with them, man. Like none of those women want to be pitched to.
So it sounds like you're teaching relational sales.
Relational over conversational, and what I try to do a lot is bring real situations, like when I say, I was just on a call with a guy in the parking lot before I came in, and we're talking about, workshops and these little 2 or 3 day. He wants to fly me out and do like a little 3 day kind of hands-on workshop type thing. And I'm more about the long game, and so I've been to seminars, and I'm sure you've spoke at them, and you've done all these different things. The reality is, you can sit there and make 20 pages of notes, and you're going to come back fired up for about a week.
Yeah.
And then 2 weeks later, you're going to have to refer back to your notes to remember some of the things. And then those 20 pages are gone, and it didn't really become part of your system, your process, your mentality, right? It's just surface level. No matter how deep you go for three days,
Right.
it just doesn't become part of it. And so what you have to do is, with what I like to do is structure these longer things. I give them homework in between sessions. So we actually dive into the person, because, so much of the sales training is surface. It's just, but we can pour into a cup, but if the cup's got a hole in it, man, it's not going to hold water.
Right.
So it's always my very first module that I coach on is be real with yourself. Because especially in like door knocking, in that door knocking area, so many people are out there. They're by themselves. They're in the truck. There's 20 excuses they give themselves.
Yes.
They don't even get out of the vehicle. Like it's like, well, it's kind of hot, man. I'll come back. I'm riding around. There ain't a lot of cars in the driveways. Like it's like
you talk yourself right out of it.
Right out of it, man. And so if you can't train, and that it goes back to coaching. I think my experience in coaching and motivating people, and that's a coach is a salesman. You got to buy into what I'm coaching and teaching you, or you're not going to do it.
Yeah.
You're not going to lift those weights. You're not going to understand that as a C teamer that comes in ninth grade, yeah, you can bench maybe the bar, and if you don't buy in, you're going to be benching the bar when you're a senior, right?
Yeah, and I want to say, I've done sales for years and years and years and loved it and was very successful at it. But, I don't care how long you've done it. I think pulling in that parking lot to go do that cold call, as you're talking about, your heart starts to palpitate, your hands get sweaty. I think it happens no matter how long you've been doing it. Yeah. But the difference is the person who pushes through and gets out of the car. The one who drives around and makes excuses and drives off the parking lot is the one that misses out, and it's so sometimes I love where you said you start with you, because part of it is you understanding what your fears are.
Right.
And it's usually that fear of rejection. And if you get past that to say, well, so many rejections gets me to a yes.
Right.
So this one rejects me, phew, check him off the list. I'm going on to the next one, and pretty soon I get my, I get my positive answer. So,
well, I heard it said one time along those lines at a door-to-door convention I went to. Guy said, okay, let's say you get $1,000 commission for selling whatever product you have, right? And you go to those door-to-door, it's like you have like obviously roofing, you have solar, you have lawn care, you have, exterminators and all, you have different things. But let's say you get $1,000. Well, if it takes you you track your numbers and every 10 you sell one, then just go out there and just as hard as you can go.
Burn
just find the 9 no's. Let's go find the 9 no's.
That's right.
Because everybody's writing you a $100 check. The 10th one is going to sign them all.
Yeah, that's right.
And so that one thing kind of stuck with me, and I kind of made it part of my training. Is like, look, everybody that says no just wrote you a $100 check, brother.
Yeah, you just got to get out of the car. I mean, but I think that's important when you're talking to especially young salespeople who've never done it before, is to let them know, hey, it's okay to feel that way, because even the person who's done it for 40 years is going to feel that way. Nobody wants a no. Everybody wants a yes, but not everybody is going to buy your product, but somebody's going to buy it.
Right.
So fixing those skill sets.
The great thing is, though, every time I walked away from a sale, whether it be on the phone or in person, a cold call, or even appointments you go to, they're just taking, getting 3 estimates or whatever it might be. No matter what it was, every time I always asked myself, okay, what's 3 things that went good about that? What's 3 things that went bad? I've got 2 companies now. That's their homework. This in this part of the module that we're on now is like, okay, what's 3 things from every call that you have that went well? What's 3 things that didn't go well? And what's 3 things that you would implement in that same situation next time to get a better result? And so when you start coaching yourself that way, then there's always room for improvement. That's why I say everyone is coachable to be a
Right.
salesperson.
And I agree with that.
Yeah.
I definitely agree with that. And I'll tell you, over the years where I've led sales teams and sales organizations throughout the years, one of the things that I think you hit on earlier, which is really key, is as a company, our company always made sure they knew the products.
Right.
So we taught them the products, and we would give them the basic overall sales skills. But the reality is you don't have time if you're a large organization to take every single employee and do what you're doing with them. And so it's worth those employees, if they really enjoy sales or they see value financially, maybe good financial gains in sales, they want to stay in that industry. It's good to invest in yourself and get yourself a coach. Tell me a little bit about how you're different, because we've talked a little bit about your curriculum, and I really like what you do with your curriculum. So how do you specialize that, and what makes you different?
I think because I do get to know the person first, the process that you have first, and I just take you in steps to get you to where you need to get to.
Gotcha.
I don't just say, okay, here's what I do, figure it out and apply it. And I think that's what a lot of people in the sales training space is like, and it's such a broad overview, and then it's kind of up to you to make it applicable. What I like to do is I meet separately with the leadership. Generally, what my main goal that I have is for my clients, and we're talking more on the corporate stuff, not necessarily on the individuals. I just kind of work those in, but I definitely enjoy them. But the big picture stuff is, you meet with a company, they got 12 salespeople, they got 2 or 3 members of leadership that's actually in the program. I meet with leadership on the first and third week, and then I meet with the sales team on the second and fourth week. And generally, I try to get a 6-month, commitment, and then through that, we'll have time to work through the whole program. And I'm basically coaching the leaders differently than I'm coaching
Gotcha.
the team.
Yes.
Right? Yes, we're going a little deeper dive on what I'm coaching them, because you're the position coach. I'm the offense coordinator, but you're over there in the group with them, teaching them the small fundamentals and attention to details. Right? I'm more drawing up the plays.
Right.
But so what you have to do is coach them on that a little deeper level, so they understand how to coach it. And then the second thing is actually teaching people how to be leaders. So many times you just take somebody that was really good at sales and say, well, I'm going to make them the sales manager.
Yeah.
That's 2 different things.
It is.
Michael Jordan's a great basketball player, in my opinion, the best ever. Probably would have made a horrible coach. He knew that. He didn't do it. Because his when he dealt with somebody that couldn't do the things, he'd say, dude, just jump from the free throw line. It's easy. Right? Well, everybody can't jump from the free throw line, Michael.
Right.
So it takes someone who just needs the system, that lived off the system. They were professional because of the process. And that's why Steve Kerr is, I don't know how much you know about basketball, but then Steve Kerr was a result of the triangle offense and coaching under great coaching, and he's able to echo that, right? It's rare that your Michael Jordans end up being your Phil Jacksons. Like you're not, it just generally doesn't happen. They end up being the great coach if they were a great player.
Gotcha.
It's 2 different skill sets.
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of people make the mistake of. Well, he's a great salesperson. Let's put him in that role, or her.
Right.
And then what happens is they're just failing. They're taking on water. And because the mentality that you normally have as a top level salesperson, you never admit defeat. Like you're not going to go back and say, dude, I can't handle this. Like I don't know how to coach. I don't know how to coach. I can do it. So then their fallback is, well, just listen to me. And then they just have the conversation and they close the deal. That person watched it. They don't know how they did it. They don't know why they said what they said or why they didn't say this. Like,
Right.
and I always say this is one of my, there's always something you said or didn't say that screwed up the deal.
Yeah. Now, you said you write your own curriculum, so you're not
Yes.
using curriculum from anyone else. You write your own.
I read a lot of books. I watch a lot of podcasts, but really the reason I do it more so than anything, it reminds me of things that I've not coached on. That is a good angle that I need. That's something that there's a gap there in my
Right.
training. Not that I'm going to duplicate it, because I come up with my own angles and ideas. What's been funny is I never read a sales book before I had already started punching out like the checklist of what my training was. And then I got a Grant Cardone book, and then I got a Zig Ziglar book, and then I got, like all these other guys. And it's like, dude, all they're doing is saying the same things I said, just in a different way.
Right.
And it's like, and what was great about this, Joanne, was that it solidified that I knew what I was talking about. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And the fact that I didn't have to go through that, like I just read Chris Voss's I've read his Never Split the Difference probably 3 times. I think I just finished it the third time. But I never read any of those books before I started doing this. And now it's like, man, Chris Voss does a lot of the same stuff. It's just more polished and, I'm going to give you some I'm going to say, I'm going to be like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm going to give you some of that because I'm a coach. I want to make sure that you understand it. And I'm not trying to regurgitate what somebody else said.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So a lot of times I'm literally, when I've been on some of these sales training calls, we schedule them for an hour. They never go an hour. They're usually an hour and a half to 2 hours. But we get in so deep into the weeds, man. And none of that is scripted. It's not something that, I couldn't do this hour after hour after hour every week and be doing somebody else's stuff. That's why I tell the big thing when somebody wants to hire me for sales, like, well, how do you overcome this objection? I was like, man, that's cool. We're going to get to that. But the reality is, if I tell you what I would say, now you're being me. Are you being real?
Right.
And the reality is what I did, and literally it's in my phone, when I started door knocking for roofs, every time I walked away and somebody had given me another different objection, I put it in my notes. And I would drive around in my truck literally out loud so I could hear my voice, hear my tone, hear how I was delivering it. I would come up with questions and ways to overcome that objection. And I role played with myself basically, but I would get like halfway through something. I was like, but that's trash. That's never going to work. And then I would just start over. But then I would just have these internal conversations with myself because if anybody ever gives me that objection again, it ain't going to work. Like, and I did learn a valuable lesson though. I got up to about 18 to 20 objections that I was very comfortable with. And it's like, I got cocky. And what happened was, I ran into this guy. I'll never forget this guy. Man, he had overalls. He threatened to pull a gun on me, threatened to call the cops, like all this stuff. I was like, dude, there's no way I'm going to let this guy defeat me. Like, somebody would overcome this because I'm going to come back a year, 2 years from now. He's going to have a new roof.
It just will be by you.
But what I'm saying is, there's an angle somebody can take. If they can figure it out, dang it, I can figure it out. So I stayed on that porch and I overcame every objection. And man, he gave me probably half the ones I knew of. He gave them all to me. You know what I mean? Like, and so I just felt like, man, I'm Michael Jordan. Shoot, I'm gonna score 100 points. Like I just felt like I was. And then I got in the sign, and then I had to hand him over to my production team, and he gave them the business, man. Like every little thing was this and that, and now they don't have the personality to me. I just sign and walk away, and then somebody else got to build his roof, and he's losing them. So I realized I came up with this term, and you'll love this, but sometimes, I don't know if you ever dealt with cats. Cats don't like to be bathed.
Right.
But some cats need a bath. Like, they might have fleas. They might have then got in some grease or something under your car, and they need a bath. But you go to bathe them, man, they're chewing your arms up and like trying to gouge your eyes out. And at that point, it's like, man, you don't understand I'm trying to help you, and that's okay. I'm not mad at you. But you're an outside cat now.
Yeah.
So my term, and I really would say this phrase when I started facing too much, negativity, man, I'm bathing cats, brother. Yeah. And I would just turn and walk off. And having that ability to release and don't be that guy that's like pushing to try to get through every objection. The first objection I feel like can be authentic, it can be real. When you overcome that, then the second one, sometimes you probably got a 50-50 chance.
Right. That's
probably them just trying to get rid of you. By the time you get a third one, man, it's just you've done something, dropped the ball. There's something going on, and it's like you have to figure out, is this worth it? Because the time you're spending here, there's 4 other people I could be helping.
You're getting to 10, so you got to check off that no so you can get on to the next one for sure. Well, it sounds like your curriculum then isn't really anything that you've just taken and changed the wording on. It sounds like you've lived it. I mean, from selling meats to selling roofs.
Yep, high ticket stuff, $30,000 ticket items. I mean, you name it, I've done.
So you kind of learned what works, what doesn't work, and then you've written your curriculum based on that, those experiences. Now, what about since COVID? Have you found that it's more difficult for people to do the relational? Because I mean, after COVID, it seems like there was a lot of things that were just online, Zoom, and a lot of salespeople were making just sales calls instead of going door to door. So have you seen that there seems to be a difference since COVID in the way relational sales is being accepted? It's
the worst it's ever been. Like it's literally the worst, and that's why my my key phrase that I use is I show you how to have comfortable conversations that lead to valuable relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And so I ask my teams constantly that I coach is like, well, do you think they're comfortable if they don't understand that? If you're saying, like, I just had a guy, so the teams that get them that I'm training, we get in a WhatsApp chat.
Mm-hmm.
Their sales team gets in there, and I have 2 chat groups for every company. So one's with the leadership, one's with the salespeople, and I have the salespeople send me audio recordings of their door knocks.
Mm.
So, or whatever it is, I got a company that sells fences, I got a solar company, I got a few different ones, but they send me copies of that, and then I just listen to them and send them back, video note or something, kind of cleaning it up or whatever,
Oh,
kind
that's
of structure them.
fantastic.
So it's not just the call. Like, I'm invested. Like, I'm like
Yeah.
what do they call it, a fractional manager? Like, is
Yeah.
that? So I'm
Yeah.
basically taking a lot off your plate if you're a salesperson, because I'm like in the weeds. Just to give you a comparison. Again, I use a lot of sports analogies because that's my background. But when you look on the sideline, you see the guys with the headphones on. They're the leaders, right? They're the guys calling the plays and doing all the things. Then you got the position coaches. They're running around, because he's the quarterback coach or the running back coach, and he's like all in the face and doing all this stuff. Then there's usually some big jacked up dude that's just walking around the sideline that gets real emotional at times, but he's a strength and conditioning coach. He's the guy that created the athletes and that can go execute on all the things that those other coaches want them to do.
Right.
He spent hours and hours and hours with them in the weight room, pushed them to tears, like worked through injuries, like all the different things, push them till they were throwing up, vomiting everywhere. Like, he is the heart of that entire team, but nobody knows their name.
Right.
He's in the background. But without him motivating them, finding out what their why is, because they'll quit on you.
Yeah.
If you don't find your why, you quit. Somebody's got to be that heartbeat, man. And that's what I want to come in with companies. And sales, we know, is the engine that makes companies go. But you have to invest in the salespeople, because if that's the heart of your company, here's the thing I ask people all the time. We know that people buy people.
Right.
Well, if it's not about your product or service, because look, guess what? Whatever you sell, other people sell it. Whatever service you have, other people do it.
Right.
So very seldomly do you have something brand new in the space. So really, what are they buying? If we know they're buying the person, what are you doing to build the person? You go through all this to build your brand, but that person that's sitting there and saying this and that and reacting this way and that way, they are your brand. No matter how much you spend on branding and marketing, at the end of the day, it's about that person.
Yeah. I agree 100%.
And I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah.
I forgot what the question was.
So what about someone who maybe hasn't been successful in sales and they want to give it another go? I mean, do you encourage people to do that, to
For
reach
sure.
out to you and kind of see why they didn't make it? Maybe they were in the wrong industry, or
That's
maybe
right.
they're just maybe they feel they're not cut out for it, but it's something they wanted to give it another shot at.
Well, part of our homework when we do the Be Real With Yourself, that first module, is you have several questions. I think it's about 20 to 24 questions that I ask you. And then I do a lot of communication through video. And there's reasons, scientific reasons why we do that. But it's the 738-55 that Chris Voss talks about and Never Split the Difference. And 7% of effective communication is based off the words you use. 38% is off of the tone that you use. And then 55% is on visually how it's received. So when you have a phone conversation or a text, phone takes it up, at least you got to 38. So now you're at 45, right? But video is the most powerful way.
Yeah.
And so if we can't visually be in front of someone, then let's send video messages. So I very seldomly just text someone.
Yeah.
It's usually a little video message, right?
Okay.
So I coach that. So when you come into my team, I usually structure some type of video messaging into your process of communication, because it's so much more effective and it's so much more authentic, and people receive it so much better. And so it starts to build that relational thing.
Yeah.
Like, now that I can see you, I've talked to you a few times on the phone.
Right.
We texted a few times, but now it's a different conversation when we're
Absolutely.
not, you know what I mean? Like, it's different. You see my mannerisms, you see how engaging everything is. So you can incorporate that into your sales process, right? We even have recording days where all the conversations that you're going to have, we come in and we basically, not really scripted, but hey, here's some key points. And we have each person stand in front of their logo, make a little video recording on Loom, and it's a link. It says, okay, I'm looking forward to coming out for your appointment. I want to make sure that all the decision makers are there. We'd love to have somewhere where we can sit down and have 30 to 45 minutes alone. Just please get all your questions together and anything. And then so it's a little video. It's like a minute long. And now it's a link. Now you don't have to make that call. And now you send the link to them. They watch it. It's like you told it to them, like, and so they receive it better. They, you know what I mean? They receive the information better, even on like things like pre-construction checklist. So, okay, we're coming to tear your roof off. It's major construction. There's a lot of things that go into that. Well, they'll sign something the first day. It's got 20 items on there, and you initial it saying that you understand it. 3-4 weeks later, they come to build the house. Well, you forgot that you need to move the garden gnomes out because something might fall in the garden gnomes. Well, if you go around one time, walk around a house that's going to have a construction built, and go ahead and make a video, it's a 3 or 4 minute video. Now you send that to them 2 days before your build. Systematically, you create that comfortable conversation.
Right, because now they've got a face with a name.
Right, exactly, man. So I love building that stuff out. Those are the type things that I do that's different.
Now, do you have, if someone, say, is at home and they're wanting to get into sales, or maybe they're getting back into it, or maybe they're just not really good at it right now, do you have video programs? Can they go onto your website and buy? Because I know there's so many webinars and seminars and stuff that you can buy and training online. Is that something that you provide?
I'm building that out.
Okay,
You know, I just
so that's
converted.
coming.
Yes, I converted. The first thing I did when I left the last company I was working with, when I decided I just need to, man, honestly, the Lord was like, hey, the reason these things aren't working is because it's not what you're supposed to be doing. I'm so passionate about coaching.
Yeah.
And whether I just graduated from coaching people how to throw touchdowns and score basketball goals to coaching on how to make sales and go on nice vacations and buy houses and, you know what I mean? Like,
You want your people grow and succeed. And I mean, I think that's
I love it.
what coaches love to do, regardless of what you're coaching, to say, I had a small investment in that person's success, you know?
So from that, it's like, that's the fuel. Like, because literally if you take the stipend that I made coaching, by the time you do weight room 4 days a week all summer, you go to 7-on-7 camps on the weekends and late stay painting the field and like all these different things. Like I probably made 45 cents an hour, like literally coaching, you know what I mean? And not to mention the stress and at home working on plays, because I created the playbook, you know what I mean? So it's like, oh my God, if it wasn't for those relationships, that's what I love, you know? And so to be able to bring that into something that can actually feed people's families and better their life, man. So I always think one of the questions that I ask early on individuals in the be real with yourself part, and they have to make the video to answer the question. So why are you not where you thought you would be at this point in your life? And they have to answer this by video, right? So it's one thing to type out just a junk answer.
Right.
But when you have to actually look in the camera and say it, it brings it to life. And so, and then the next thing is, so whose fault is it that and if they're not the reason, if they don't take that ownership, then I know we got some work to do.
Yeah.
Right. So what's your definition of good culture in a business? Let them answer that question. So where's an example of poor culture? And why? And what's a great example of good leadership that you've been under? Then what happens is they start to articulate this stuff, and I can take those answers and kind of bring that back to leadership.
Right.
So guys, look, everybody can't be coached the same. You know, I'm a big Steelers fan. It's the reason my company's black and yellow. But Mike Tomlin talks about it all the time. Like it's you don't coach everybody the same, but you coach everybody fair.
That's right.
And so many sales leaders get up there, and leaders in general, they just say, okay, here it is. This is what we do. And we don't understand that everybody has to be, yes, you can have your general outline of this is the system and processes, but you have to motivate people differently. I mean, you have to kind of find out what those things are. And like you said, to your point, like you got so much going on the corporate level. You know, if the head coach had to go run the weight room, your program screwed. Like,
Well,
you
and
got to
most,
have that guy.
I think most larger companies have that challenge is you can't do that individual training. You can give the overall broad training. This is what salespeople do. This is how you overcome an objection. And then, for your company, you're going to give this is how you overcome this objection for
Right.
this product that we're selling.
Right.
But I'm a big believer in what you said. I've sold many things through many years, even starting as young as 13 years old. I was in sales and didn't really know I was in sales,
Right.
But I think it's a wonderful industry. I loved it. It was something that brought great joy and great financial rewards to my family through the years. And I think there's a lot of people who are afraid to get into that industry. And I believe what you're doing is fantastic. I hope if any of our listeners are on here today and they're even remotely thinking about getting into sales and they think they can't or they think they can, I think they should give you a call,
The people that think they can't are the ones that probably need to.
Yeah.
Because literally that's the aura that you carry when you meet and talk with people. The less you seem like a salesman, the more engaging they're going to be with
Well,
you.
and sometimes it's just somebody believing in you, I think, because, I'll give my own story. My first official sales job, I was doing something else in a company, and the president of the company came to me and said, I think you should be in sales. And I was like, me? No way, I can't be in sales. And not to boast or brag, but, I had good mentors within that company. He was a good mentor for me. And before it was over with, this one lady had her name on the plaque on the wall every month for top sales. And within the second month, my name was on the wall for every month.
Right.
And every month thereafter, as long as I was with the company.
I love
So,
it.
but I would have never, that would have been nothing that I would have ever stepped into. But it just took someone saying, I think you'd be good at this. And I was naive enough to say, okay, let's try.
Right.
And I did, and it was wonderful. So I think, people are afraid to be in sales because it is a little intimidating, but with the right training or the right mentorship, I think anybody can be in sales. I think it can be taught.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
You just have to be able to get out of the truck.
Yep.
You
Well,
have to get out of the truck.
you have to find the confidence to do it. There's the big thing is confidence. The people that they like I don't get nervous anymore in any kind of a sales situation. I think because I look forward to, like, let's take when we first spoke, I was actually at the golf course. I used to play golf and I would be so nervous. I would call to get a tee time and tell them it was going to be a foursome, and I knew I was coming with just me and my son because I didn't want to play with anybody else because I was so nervous, like I was going to mess up. Now it's like I go just hawking people like, hey, you want to play? You want to join up? Like, you know what I mean? I'm looking, like, I want to be in those uncomfortable situations because it makes you better.
Yeah, it does make you better.
So I love the part of the thing I love about sales is because there's so many different ways to go about it. And the reality is no matter if people buy people, everybody isn't for everybody.
Right.
So no matter how good I think I am, there's some people that just the energy isn't there, man.
Right.
Like no matter how I try to strategize it and do all that, and then somebody else that comes in like yourself, and that's maybe a different approach, and it's like, man, like how did you do it? Like you're not as good a salesman as me, but they just resonated with you.
Yeah. Well, it's just difference, I think.
Yeah.
Well, Ken, I'm so excited that you came in the studio today. Would you tell our listeners how can they reach you? What's the best way to reach out?
My website is berealsalestraining.com. And then you can reach me, man, what is my work? Did I give you my card? I've got a work number. I can't even remember it. That goes through my CRM, so it's actually better. 864-215-2700. And then I'm on Facebook. I've got a Facebook page as well, Be Real Sales Training.
Okay.
Just got a picture of my mug up there.
So if a company needs help with their sales team, they can reach out to you at that number and the website. And
Or
then
individual.
if an individual wants to reach out to you as well.
Any industry.
Any
Like,
industry.
Sales
Okay.
is sales.
Sales is sales. Well, listen, before I let you go, I always like to ask a fun question at the end of my interview.
Okay.
So if you could have a superpower, what would it be and why?
Wow. Man, you got me on that one. Wow, a superpower. Probably, this is going to sound probably crazy, but just to not have to sleep.
To not have to sleep, to be able to stay awake all the time.
Because you could imagine what you could do.
Oh, you get a lot accomplished.
Oh my goodness. Like that's literally a superpower. But and besides that, that's one I just kind of threw out there. One I actually, now that I'm thinking about it, one thing I always thought is like, I wish I knew now, or then what I know now. Like,
to be able to see in the past.
30 years ago.
Or see in the future.
Yeah, 30
see in the
years ago, if I knew the things I knew now.
I know,
You know?
right? Well, listen, thank you for coming in today. I know
Thank
that our
you.
listening
Thank you for
audience
having me.
gained a lot of insight into sales and into what you do. And I do
Awesome.
think you're a hidden gem here
Thank
in
you.
the upstate. So thank you so much for coming. And
Thank you.
listen, thank y'all for following us and listening and sharing and liking and all of the commenting and all the things that you do. Our podcast would not be in existence if it wasn't for our listeners. So thank you so much for joining us. I also want to thank Brandon Higginbotham. He is the owner of 864 Sound. He is a sound and video engineer. If you need anything sound or video, you really need to reach out to him. But original music, music production, sound design, voiceovers, podcasting, audio repair, mixing and mastering. I'm having a hard time talking this morning. And live sound. He's here on Sweetbriar Road. It's 25 Sweetbriar Road, Suite B9, Greenville, South Carolina. Y'all need to reach out to him. He is fantastic at what he does, and we are so grateful for all the podcasts that he records for us. So we hope that you will share, like, and if you know any other local hidden gem businesses, reach out to us. We'd love to have them on the show. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, Ken.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.